Hello everybody, so in today's video I'll be reading the entire Wikipedia page of Austria-Hungary. Yes, the entire thing. All of this I will be reading. Every single one of this I'll be reading. And I don't know when I last uploaded. I uploaded like 3 weeks ago. It's almost been a month. Anyway, so I'll be reading the Wikipedia page for this, and if you want to stay and listen, I don't know how long this video will be. Probably be a hour of me talking. It'll probably be longer. Anyway, let's just do this. All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Austria-Hungary, often referred to as the Austro-Hungarian Empire or the dual monarchy, was a constitutional monarchy and great power in Central Europe. Between 1867 and 1918, it was formed with the Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867 in the aftermath of the Austro-Prussian War and was dissolved shortly after its defeat in the First World War. Austria-Hungary was ruled by the House of Habsburgs and consisted the last phase in the constitutional evolution of the Habsburg monarchy. It was a multinational state and one of Europe's major powers at the time. Austria-Hungary was geographically the second largest country in Europe after the Russian Empire at 21,538. I didn't even say it right. Anyway, and the third most populous after Russia and the German Empire. The empire was built up the fourth largest machine building industry in the world, after the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Austria-Hungary also became the world's third largest manufacturer and exporter of electronic home appliances, electric industrial appliances, and power generation appliance apparatus. I don't even say it. I'm an idiot. For power plants after the United States and the German Empire. At its core, the dual monarchy, which was a union between Cisleithania, the northern and western parts of the former Austrian Empire, and the Kingdom of Hungary. Following the 1867 reforms, the Austrian and Hungarian states were co-equal in power. The two states conducted common foreign, defense, and financial policies, but all over government facilities were divided among respective states. A third component of the union was the Kingdom of Croatia-Slovenia, an anonymous region under the Hungarian crown, which negotiated the Croatian-Hungarian settlement in 1868. After 1878, Bosnia and Herzegovina came under Austro-Hungarian joint military and civilian rule, until it was fully annexed in 1908, provoking the Bosnian crisis among the other powers. Austria-Hungary is one of the central powers in World War I, which began with an Austro-Hungarian war declaration on the Kingdom of Serbia on 28 July 1914. It was already effectively dissolved by the time the military authorities signed the Armistice of Villa Giusti on 3rd of November 1918. The Kingdom of Hungary and the First Austrian Republic were treated as successors de jure, whereas the independence of the West Slavs and the South Slavs of the Empire as the First Czechoslovak Republic, the Second Polish Republic, and the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, respectively. The most of territory demands of the Kingdom of Romania and the Kingdom of Italy were also recognized by the victorious powers in 1920. The Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867, which advocated the empire's dual structure and place of the former Austrian Empire, originated at the time when Austria declined in strength and in power, both in the Italian peninsula as a result of the Second Italian War of Independence of 1859 and among the states of the former German Confederation, replaced following the Austro-Prussian War of 1866, with the North German Confederation under the leadership of Prussia as the dominant German-speaking power, leaving, meanwhile, the Austrian Empire outside. The compromise re-established in the full sovereignty of the Kingdom of Hungary, which had been lost at the Hungarian Revolution of 1848. Other factors in the constitutional changes were continued Hungarian dissatisfaction with rule from Vienna and increasing national consequences or acquaintance. Oh my god. I'm literally an idiot. Shut up. On the part of other nationalities of the Austrian Empire, Hungarian dissatisfaction arose partly from Austria's suppression with Russian support of the Hungarian Liberal Revolution of 1848 through 1849. However, the dissatisfaction with Austrian rule had grown for many years within Hungary and had many other causes. By the late 1850s, a large number of Hungarians who had supported the 1949 revolution were willing to accept the Habsburg monarchy. They argued that while Hungary had the right to full internal independence under the Pragmatic Sanction of 1713, foreign affairs and defense were common to both Austria and Hungary. After the Austrian defeat at Königgrätz, the government realized it needed to reconcile with Hungary to regain the status of great power. The new foreign minister, Count Frederick Ferdinand von Beust, wanted to conclude the stalemated negotiation with the Hungarians to secure the monarchy. Emperor Franz Joseph began negotiations for a compromise with the Hungarian nobility, led by Ferenc Deák. On 20th March 1867, the re-established Hungarian Parliament at the Pest started to negotiate new laws to be accepted on 30th March. However, Hungarian leaders received the emperor's coronation as Kingdom of Hungary on 8th of June as a necessity for the laws to be enacted, with the lands of the Holy Crown of Hungary. On 28th July, Franz Joseph, in his new capacity as King of Hungary, approved and promulgated the new laws, officially gave the birth of the dual monarchy. I don't want to read all of it. I guess I'll just read this. Do I have to? I'm just telling you words. I'll just read it. The realm's official name was in German, Österreich-Ungarische Monarchy, and the Hungarian Österreich-Magyar Monarchia. Through the international relations, Austria-Hungary was used German. The Austrians also used the names KUK monarchy. In detail, some of this and some of that, and Dunabian monarchy or dual monarchy, German, and the double eagle, but none of these became widespread either Hungary or elsewhere. The realm's full name used in the kingdoms of lands represented the Imperial Council and the lands of the Holy Hungarian Crown of Saint Stephen. I'm not gonna read this. No, I'll read it. Hungary. From 1867 onwards, the abbreviations heading the names official institutions in Austria-Hungary reflected their responsibility. KUK was the label for institution common to both parts of the monarchy, etc. The KUK and during the war the Kriegsmarine, except the KUK Kriegsmarine, and during the war the KUK Army, the Common Army changed its label from KK to KUK only in 1889 as the request of the Hungarian government. KK, or Imperial Royal, was the term institutions of Scythia, royal in this label referred to the Hungarian Bohemia. KU or MK referred as Transleithnia, the lands of the Hungarian crown in the Kingdom of Croatia and Slovenia. Its anonymous institutions hold K. As according to the Croatian-Hungarian settlement, the only official language in Croatian and Slav was Croatian, and those institutions were only Croatian. Following the decision of Franz Joseph I in 1868, the realm bore the official name Austro-Hungarian monarchy. In its international relations, will often contact to monarchy in English. There he is, the one man, the true man himself. The compromise turned the Habsburg dominions into a real union between the Austrian Empire, lands represented in the Imperial Council or Cisleithnia, in the western and northern half in the Kingdom of Hungary, lands of the Crown of St. Stephen or Transylvania. In the eastern half, the two halves shared a common monarch who ruled as Emperor of Austria over the western northern half portion, as a King of Hungary over the eastern portion. Foreign relations and defense were managed jointly, and the two countries were formed a customs union, and all other state functions were to be handled separately by two of the states. Certain regions, such as Polish Galicia within Silesia and Croatia with Transylvania, enjoyed anonymous status with its own unique government structures. Polish anonymity in Galicia and Croatian-Hungarian settlement. The division between Austria and Hungary was so marked that there was no common citizenship, was either an Austrian citizen or a Hungarian citizen, never both. This also meant that there were always separate Austrian and Hungarian passports, never had a common one. However, neither Austrian nor Hungarian passports were used in the Kingdom of Croatia and Slovenia. Instead, the kingdom issued its own passports, which were written in Croatian and French, and displayed the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Croatia, Slovenia, Dalmatia on them. Croatia, Slovenia also had executive anatomy regarding the naturalization of citizenship, defined as the Hungarian-Croatian citizen, Hungarian-Croatian citizenship for the kingdom citizens. It is known what kind of passports were used in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which was under the control of both Austria and Hungary. The Kingdom of Hungary has always maintained a separate parliament. The Diet of Hungary, even after the Austrian Empire was created in 1804, the administration and the government of the Kingdom of Hungary until 1848-49 Hungarian Revolution remained largely untouched by the government structure of the overarching Austrian Empire. Hungary's central government structures remained well separated from the Austrian imperial government. The country was governed by the Council of Lieutenancy of Hungary, located in Pressburg and later in Pest, and by the Hungarian Royal Court, Chancellery in Vienna. The Hungarian government and the Hungarian Parliament were suspended after the Hungarian Revolution of 1848 and were reinstated after the Austro-Hungarian Compromise in 1867. Vienna served as the monarchy's primary capital. The Sicilian Austrian part contained about 57% of the total population and the largest share of its economic resources compared to the Hungarian part. There were three parts to rule the Austro-Hungarian Empire: the common, foreign, military, and joint financial policy. Only for diplomatic, military, and naval expenditures later also included the Bosnian affairs. Under the monarchy, the Austrian or Cisleithnian government, lands represented in the Imperial Council, the Hungarian or Transylvanian government, lands of the Crown of St. Stephen. So here it is. Alright. The first Prime Minister of Hungary after the compromise was Count Gyula Andrassy. The 1867 to 1871. The old Hungarian constitution was restored in France. In France, Joseph was crowned as King of Hungary. Andrassy next served as a foreign minister of Austria-Hungary, 1871 to 1879. The empire relied increasingly on a constitutional bureaucracy, in which Czechs played an important role, backed by loyal elements including a large part of the German, Hungarian, Polish, and Croat aristocracy. After 1878, Bosnia-Herzegovina came under Austro-Hungarian military and civilian rule, until it was fully annexed in 1908, provoking the Bosnian crisis among other great powers. The northern part of the Ottoman Sanjak of Novi Pazar was also under de facto joint occupation during the period, but the Austro-Hungarian army withdrew as part of their annexation of Bosnia. The annexation of Bosnia also led to Islam being recognized as an official state religion due to Bosnia's Muslim population. Oh my gosh. Alright. The Common Government officially designated Ministerial Council for Common Affairs, or for Gemeinsame Angelegenheiten in German, came into existence in 1867 as a result of the Austro-Hungarian Compromise. The government of Austria, which ruled the monarchy until then, became the government of an Austrian part, and other government was formed for the Hungarian part. A common government was also formed for the new matter of common national security. The common army, navy, foreign policy, and imperial household, and the customs union. It consisted of 3 imperial royal joint ministries: KUK, Gemeinsame Ministry of Imperial and Royal Household, the Foreign Affairs, as the Imperial Chancellery before, Imperial and Royal Ministry of War, known as the Imperial Ministry of War between 1911, Imperial and Royal Ministry of Finance, known as the Imperial Ministry of Finance before 1908, responsible only for the finances of the other 2 joint ministries. The Minister of the Imperial and Royal Household and Foreign Affairs was a chairman, except the monarch was present and led meetings himself, and thus he was a de facto. The common prime minister since 1869, the prime ministers of the Austrian and Hungarian halves of the monarchy were also members of the common government. The chief of the general staff usually attended the meetings with no voting rights, and also had the intelligence under his subordination when required. Ministers and high-ranking officials from the Austrian and Hungarian governments could also attend the greetings, but also without voting rights. In addition to the council, the Austrian and Hungarian parliaments each elected a delegation of 60 members who met separately and voted on the expenditures of the ministerial council, giving the 2 governments influence in the common administration. However, the ministers ultimately answered only to the monarch, who had the final decision on matters of foreign and military policy. Overlapping responsibilities between the joint ministries and the ministries of the 2 halves can cause friction and financially, the armed forces suffered particularly from the overlap. Although the unified government determined the overall military direction, the Austrian and Hungarian governments each remained in charge of recruiting, supplies, and training. Each government could have a strong influence over common governmental responsibilities. Each half of the dual monarchy proved quite prepared to disrupt common operations to its advance in its own interests. Relations during the half-century after 1867 between the parts of the dual monarchy featured repeated disputes over external tariff arrangements, and over the financial contribution of each government to the common treasury. These matters were determined by the Austro-Hungarian Compromise of 1867, in which common expenditures were allocated 70% to Austria and 30% to Hungary. This division had been renegotiated every 10 years. There was a political turmoil during the build-up to each renewal of the agreement. By 1907, the Hungarian share had risen to 36.4%. Disputes accumulated in the early 1900s in prolonged constitutional crisis. It was triggered by a disagreement over which language to use for command in Hungarian army units depended by the advance to power in Budapest. In the April 1906 of a Hungarian nationalist coalition, financial renewals of the common arrangements occurred in October 1907 and in November 1917. On the basis of the status quo, the oh my god, I can't even speak. Negotiations in 1917 ended with the dissolution of the dual monarchy. In 1878, the Congress of Berlin placed the Bosnia Vilayet of the Ottoman Empire under Austro-Hungarian occupation. The region was where was I? In 1800, under Austria, the region was formally annexed in 1908 and was governed by Austria and Hungary jointly. The Governor-General of Bosnia and Herzegovina was always an army officer, but he was the first and foremost the head of the civil administration of the province. Bosnian office German and was subordinated in the common ministry. But he was first foremost the head of the civil administration in the province. The Bosnian office German was as suboriented the common ministry of finance. As the common government lacked a ministry of the interior, Bosnia received a territorial statute with the setting up of the territorial diet, regulations for the election and procedure of the diet, a law of occasions, a law of public meetings, and a law dealing with the district councils. According to this statute, Bosnia and Herzegovina formed a single administrative territory under the responsibility, direction, and supervision of the Ministry of Finance of the dual monarchy in Vienna. Alright, everyone, I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to go get some water because my throat's pretty dry, and you just sit put. You just sit put it there. Alright, everybody, I'm back. Alright. Sorry, everyone, I'm just fixing my computer. Wait, time out. I gotta fix something real quick. Alright. Alright, so where was I? Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that, everybody. I had to fix my charger. Hungary and Austria maintained separate parliaments, each of its own prime minister. The Diet of Hungary, commonly known as the National Assembly, and Imperial Council in Lithuania, each parliament of its own exclusive monarchy, of its own executive government, appointed by the monarch. In this sense, Austria-Hungary remained under autocratic government, and the Emperor King appointed in both Austrian and Hungarian prime ministers, along with their representative cabinets. This made both governments responsible of the Emperor King, as neither half could have a government with a program contrary to the views of the monarch. The Emperor King could appoint non-parliamentary governments, for example, or keep a government that did not have a parliamentary majority in the power in order to block formation of other government which he did not approve of. Alright, everybody, I'm going to end that here. And if you guys want to have a part 2, well, I probably already would make a part 2. But if you guys want to see more, want to see me read the rest of this, just comment down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not like this video, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe, because why not? And yeah, I'll see you next time. See ya.